Already, Tracy, we challenged the Lockup still, fog 15 minutes, and no lockpicks. So evidently there's fog, which is kind of really obvious from right now, and that's not really great for seeing anything or for visibility for that matter. But it's not something like hidden section bars, which means that we can actually see where we're getting detected from, which is generally great. And then there's no lockpicks, but we've got a blowtorch, or alternatively we can have a drill, which... For a start, let's have you be hostage and hopefully not meet anyone, since it's... We do want to interrogate him, not for any significant reason, but we still want to do it. But if you call a blowtorch or a drill, which means that that's going to be perfectly fine, it's just that we probably are going to have some problems getting open. Why are you staring over there? You should be looking at me. But you know what? Never mind then. We're going to ignore that. And then finally, there's 15 minutes, so we should probably get moving a bit faster than we are right now. Just as some general advice. So, we're going to have the disguise, we're going to allow Spring to regenerate, then we're just going to start working on doing, well, quite literally anything that could be perceived as useful. So we're going to start by going up through here, looking for any potential fouls, which there really aren't right now, and that's perfectly fine. Before going over here, grabbing the evidence, and then afterwards just trying to search this foul inconspicuously, which is perfectly fine. So instead, we're just going to go through here, go over here and check for anything over here, and then afterwards just keep walking. Oh no, you're not doing that. Right then, we're just going to go over here instead, since that's a very viable solution. And instead just really start considering hostaging people, because that's something that we can do, which is a vaguely compelling reason to do that, so... Hi there, you. We're just going to interrogate you over here. And then afterwards, maybe we'll get what we want, which we did, without actually hacking anything, so that's perfectly fine. And we're just going to go over here now, and then afterwards just keep maybe finding some detectives that we can in fact interrogate, since they actually give some very nice intel regarding where things are, which would be quite important. So for a start, we might really want to find someone to just interrogate, but so far we haven't actually had anyone, which is a bit unfortunate, so we're just going to work with that, and well, I suppose if we're feeling brave, we could always do this. It's just that it's maybe not the best idea if we're not getting caught, so we're just going to interrogate you over here. Not get absolutely anything, and then afterwards back him up, since that's kind of how this works, which, all in all, a bit of a shame, but we could certainly make do with that, and right now we just have to not get caught by anyone, which, for the most part, doesn't seem all that bad. It's just trying to not get caught by you over there, which I would say is relatively terrifying, but for now, we're just going to go over here, size it a fall over there, and then afterwards search this over here, which is perfectly valid. And right now, we're just going to see if maybe someone shows up downstairs, which I find highly unlikely, but well, that's not the case. So instead, we're just going to go back up over here, and then afterwards, well, you are once again in a convenient location, so that's perfectly fine. And if you're going to go somewhere even more convenient, that would be generally much better, which... This is generally out of sight enough, but just maybe not to an excessively satisfactory level, so we're just going to back him up. And because I think I see someone over there, we're just going to go over there, and hopefully we'll be able to... Hi there, that's convenient. But you know what, that's alright, we could just go over here. Side to you over there. And then afterwards have you get down over here. And maybe we won't meet anyone, which, once again, not very likely, and unfortunately not anything that's useful since they're not really a detective, which I suppose is fine. It's just that we're going to want to actually maybe find a detective so that we can get the last location that we, once again, still don't actually need all that much, but I suppose that's alright. Even though this is maybe not the most promising place to take people out, since it's a rather open area, but for the most part we can make do with it, and then we can just go through here now, and then afterwards just overall not get caught, because that's kind of how this works. So we'll just leave this over here. We'll get this open over here, or more accurately, we'll give them the intel. And then we need to just wait a bit. And whenever we're feeling ready enough, we're just going to go in here and say hi to you, which probably should have waited a bit longer, but we could certainly make do. We could certainly make do with that. And unfortunately, it seems like someone's going to be showing up, since we did actually say hi to the camera and, well, make things a bit more visible than we ideally wanted, which is maybe not all that great. It's just that we can wait over here and see who shows up, which Reminds me, we should probably hide their body by just doing that. And I suppose we get a detective, which is a bit of a shame since we don't actually need that, but sure. So, I kind of can't answer that phone right now because I don't have a radio to answer, so we're just gonna take care of that. We'll knock him out because surely we won't actually lure anyone else over here because that's kind of how this hopefully works, and then we'll just go over here and breach this open, which still perfectly valid. And hopefully we won't get another guard, which is highly unlikely unless we do something completely absurd over here, which we're not gonna do. We've got a silent drill and a blowtorch, which is not all that loud, so that's not really how this works. But we'll get it open, and since we already found out all of the locations, we could just go in here and start bagging right immediately, which maybe over here would be better, but we'll just grab it, and then we'll just start moving, and then hopefully we won't meet any guards, which is kind of the fundamental basis for most of this, and trying to not face any problems. But we're just gonna go through here now, and since we did take out quite a lot of people by just trying to interrogate people, it should make this path, well, a lot easier than it otherwise would be, which is generally a good thing. So we're just gonna stash this over here, and then we'll just start making our way all the way back over there in a rather slow and serene manner, and then afterwards we're just gonna keep sprinting, and then afterwards get the last bag before we get out of here, which seems vaguely like a given, but we'll just grab this over here. We'll let our sprint regenerate, and then afterwards we just have a bit more to run, and Cyber should be right behind us with the last bag, which is presumably what is precisely happening right around now, which... Hi there, you. We're just gonna close this just to make sure that no guards actually close that in some rather poor timing, and then we're just gonna go over here and stash this over here before we just awkwardly wait. I mean, the view's not really all that great since I suppose there is that one civilian, but regardless, that's the daily challenge that in just over 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Cheers everyone, have a great time!